A number of people have been asking me about Deep Thunder and its role in the story of Down to a Sunless Sea. Why did I do it? What was the idea behind it? So today I want to talk a bit about this. Deep Thunder is a name given to a recurrent neural net living on my laptop. The language model it uses is a character-level model developed by Andrej Karpathy of Stanford, and the code was written by Karpathy and Justin Johnson. I trained Deep Thunder on the language of Down to a Sunless Sea, and after some time, Deep Thunder had modeled the language in which I wrote this story well enough for me to generate new words. These words, as you can imagine, were a little bit like the English that Deep Thunder had learned from Down to a Sunless Sea. But some of them were completely new, words no one had ever heard of. And some of these words fitted so well with the story I had written that I incorporated them back into the story itself. Here is an example from the first chapter. Inspiration was a scarce resource, and it came in all guises. He prosed that from experience. So when he saw the sad-looking man sitting by the roadside, his focus perked up and he paid close attention. The man wore flannel pardangers so old and faded, they might have been worn during the Second World War. Prose and pardangers, these are words invented by Deep Thunder. Essentially, they are neologisms. The Oxford Dictionary defines a neologism as a newly coined word or expression. Shakespeare invented lots of new words. We are still using words that he invented, words like mountaineer, moonbeam, champion, bloodstained, fashionable. If I'm not mistaken, he invented over 1,700 words. But in the 20th century, we saw an acceleration of neologisms in fiction. This is significant because not all of these neologisms made their way back into common speech. In fact, very few did. But the difference between Shakespeare's neologisms and these 20th century neologisms were that they had a specific fictional purpose. We only need to think of works by James Joyce, Anthony Burgess, J.R.R. Tolkien or Ursula Le Guin, to name but a few. Anyone who has watched or read A Clockwork Orange will be familiar with Alex and the lingo he speaks with his droogs. This language is called Nadsat, and Anthony Burgess gave the words Russian inflections, and sometimes even Russian meanings. In Down to a Sunless Sea, the invented words are not the speech of a subculture. Instead, they're the words everyone in that world understands. So in this sense, they have more in common with the sci-fi vocabulary that Ursula Le Guin created for The Left Hand of Darkness. Sci-fi is great in this way. It invents whole new worlds. Language is but one aspect of a world. We also sometimes find this in fantasy. The Lord of the Rings, for example. The story is underpinned by the invention of an entire language called Quenya. Quenya is the language of the elves in the world of Middle-earth. But to come back to the story, you might ask, what function would a set of neologisms have in Down to a Sunless Sea? Well, there are at least three functions. First of all, the story is set in London, but it is not quite London as we know it. It is some kind of parallel universe where elements of the past and the present seem to coexist. There are medieval knights and ladies, there are elves, and yet there are also modern brands and food markets, foodie vendors, fashion designers, avant-garde artists. So in this dystopian parallel universe of London, isn't it natural that language is also used slightly differently? That maybe it developed slightly differently? So that's one purpose of this language, to make the familiar seem a little bit strange. The second reason for using neologisms, well, this reason I'm not going to talk about because I don't want to spoil the story for the readers. Suffice it to say that when you read Down to a Sunless Sea all the way through, it will become clear. There is a third reason, and this one is really about the broader purpose of technology and machine learning and their use in creative writing. I wanted to show that machine learning can open up new possibilities in creative writing. You know, there is a lot of talk about how AI is coming to take our jobs and even our creativity. And I wanted to show that if we embrace it, it can be empowering. AI is coming, regardless of anyone's personal opinion about it. Why not make the most of it? It is not that different from the invention of other tools, like dictionaries. Imagine just how useful dictionaries and thesauruses must have seemed when they first started doing the rounds. In machine learning, we have something that's going to become a whole lot more powerful. So in the next video, I will show you how easy it is to train your own language dataset and play with language generation. Thank you for watching.